Good evening, my non-existent viewers. I got a request a few weeks ago by Daily Reacts Gaming, one of my subscribers. Shout out to you, by the way. You requested a shout out, and you also requested me to see and review the film Uncharted. And I did 2 Tuesdays ago. When I saw it, I didn't feel like reviewing the movie because I came back, I was wiped. It was a long day of work, and at the time I was just feeling really down with everything I heard in the news lately about Ukraine. I mean, Putin needs to be stopped. But regardless, I just didn't really. I figured, you know what, I'm not going to review Uncharted. Instead, I was going to make a video reviewing both that and The Batman starring Robert Pattinson, which I just saw earlier today. And I figured I've only done one of these kind of videos where I review two movies in the same video. First time I did that was like way back in 2019 with Shazam and Pet Cemetery. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to briefly go over my thoughts on first Uncharted and then The Batman. So if you guys want me to do more double reviews like this, let me know in the comments down below. Starting with Uncharted, I went to Uncharted with positive-ish expectations. I wasn't expecting too much out of it. It's another video game film adaptation of a video game. Uncharted specifically. There's a lot of those have been progressively getting better in recent years. I'm very excited for the Sonic the Hedgehog sequel. It's coming out soon, and I walked in this movie because I love Tom Holland. Obviously, he's Spider-Man. Everyone loves Tom Holland nowadays, so people were really hyped for this film. And I walked into it, and I gotta say, I had a pretty decent time. I actually had a great time in a few scenes in particular. Tom Holland did most of his own stunts from what I've read, and there was scenes where, I'm not gonna lie, I was really on the edge of my seat. I was like, ooh, they're going there. It's it reminds me of, Mission Impossible in a few ways, some crazy scenes where it's oh, how's he gonna get out of this situation, or what's he gonna do? And I love the quest that he goes on. I have never played the Uncharted games. I'm an Xbox guy, so I have never owned a PlayStation, thus I can't play PlayStation exclusives. But I've heard from a lot of Uncharted fans that Tom Holland was miscast as Nathan Drake, which I can see that because, again, my knowledge of Uncharted is very cursory at best. But Nathan Drake in all the games is from what I've been told, in his late 20s and early mid 30s, and Tom Holland just doesn't look the part. I mean, he has really good chemistry with Mark Wahlberg's character and Sophia Ali's character. They have a very nice dynamic, and Antonio Banderas plays a pretty good villain in this film. But yeah, I can understand where the criticism was coming from. Again, there were no bad performances in Uncharted. I mean, I liked all the characters that were in it, and I could see them the film tries to play itself up for a second part. And if that ever gets off the ground, I have I would have very mixed expectations for it as of now. If it is greenlit for a sequel, we'll see how that plays out, I suppose. But yeah, Uncharted overall, I had a pretty decent time with it. As great visuals, great action scenes. It was engaging. Had a decent the writing was problematic at a few scenes, but it was also very adventurous, which is the whole point, and I just really dig a solid adventure movie. So Uncharted overall, I would give it 6 out of 10 stars. It's a passable film. Now, The Batman, guys. I refused to look at any movie reviews or critical receptions on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes before seeing The Batman. I wanted to go into it as just purely as open-minded as possible. I did hear people say things on Facebook and Twitter being Robert Pattinson didn't do a good job, or it was miscast, or everything from this is great, it's the best Batman movie we've had in years, to everywhere. I heard very small opinions on this film before going into it, and guys, believe the hype that that The Batman has received. Matt Reeves' direction, he nailed it, hit it out of the park, and I gotta say, it was as of now, I know the year is young, it's my pick for best movie of 2022. It's one of the rare cases with movies, when I see a really bad movie, the more I think about it, the worse it gets, while The Batman is the opposite. It's a great movie, and the more I think about it, the better it gets. Robert Pattinson has come such a long way since Twilight, and the fact that people are still kind of bashing him and not watching movies with him in it because of his role in Twilight honestly upset me, because he nailed it both in this movie and in Tenet, you know, a year and a half ago, and in The Lighthouse, like 2.5 years ago. And he does a phenomenal Batman, as well as Zoe Kravitz is great as Catwoman, Andy Serkis is great as Alfred, Jeremy Wright is great as Commissioner Gordon, Colin Farrell is great as Penguin, and so unrecognizable as the Penguin. Holy crap. If this movie doesn't receive an Oscar nomination for best makeup and hairstyling when, you know, the Oscars come around, I'm punching a hole in my wall. And Paul Dano as the Riddler was such a fantastic villain. Like, oh my goodness. Like, Paul Dano was perfectly, like, whoever casted this movie deserves a big pat on the back. And the score is like the soundtrack throughout the Batman, it's up there with Hans Zimmer's score for the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan. Like, I hold Batman movies to pretty like high standards because The Dark Knight is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And like, I was like, when I heard that another Batman movie was announced, like not tied to the DCEU, I was kind of like worried at first, and I heard this also gonna be a really dark and gritty like Batman movie. It's like, ooh, so are we getting an R-rated Batman movie? Like, is it gonna follow the same veins as Zack Snyder's Justice League or the Suicide Squad or Deadpool or Loki and other like R-rated comic book movies we've had? Then I found it was PG-13, and at first I was kind of like, oh man. But then as I was watching this movie, this is definitely like the no guns, no killing kind of Batman that we got used to in the Christopher Nolan trilogy. I was like, you know what, for the character, a PG-13 rating makes sense. And yeah, like, the visuals were very on point. Gotham just feels like such a real place. And this movie is a slow burner. It's almost 3 hours long. And I use the word slow burner a lot when I review movies. Please don't think that's synonymous with boring. This film was not boring. I wasn't bored at all while watching this film. But, you know, there were moments where the scenes were very slow, and I kind of had a hard time paying attention to it, but at the same time, there were like a scene right after that where it's like there's an explosion, and there's this one scene where the Batman's chasing Penguin in the Batmobile, and it's probably one of the best choreographed like car chase scenes I have ever seen. This should go without saying, but I'm really happy this was not like yet another Batman origin story, but it's like the setup to a new vision of Batman. We don't need to see Martha Wayne shot in the alleyway for the 100th time already, but like this is still like Batman and Bruce Wayne are two different characters. In this movie, they feel like they're intertwined, and I love how the film. I just like love the vision that Matt Reeves has going into this film, and there better be a sequel. Like, seriously, there needs to be like a continuation of this whole like Reeves-verse of Batman, as is what I'm calling it. But yeah, guys, overall, if you haven't seen the Batman yet, like, please check it out. You won't be disappointed. I gotta go for a 9 out of 10 stars. It's an awesome film. And like I said, it's, as of now, my pick for best movie of 2022. So, there you guys have it. Those are my thoughts on The Batman and Uncharted. Let me know in the comments down below, like, what are your thoughts on either of these two films? And subscribe to my channel. Please hit the like button. Follow me on Instagram. Links all in the description. Thank you so much for watching. My name is TV9. You guys stay beastly.